То есть вы дезертировали из украинской армии, пришли сюда? Правильно?
Нет. Я на данный момент сохраняю верность народу Украины, которому я присягал. Я не дезертировал из украинской армии. Это в данный момент является военнослужащий, здесь стоящий, украинской армии. И украинская армия вместе с российской армией освобождает свою землю. Я борюсь еще против того режима, который Зеленский сделал, что он притягивает к войне людей, которым война это в принципе не нужна.
Velyka Novosilka has fallen. Russian troops have taken over the town of Velyka Novosilka in the Donetsk People's Republic, the Defense Ministry in Moscow reported on Sunday. Previously considered Kiev's last stronghold in southern Donbass, the town was a key component of Ukraine's heavily fortified defensive line in the region.
Отже, Велика Новосілка. Ситуація наступна. Нам всім тут пізда. Підори десь вдвох.
And served as a major logistics hub for Ukrainian troops. RT News Russia Today reports that Velyka Novosilka was a centerpiece of the Vymivka Ledge, a string of villages in the west of the DPR that the Ukrainian military turned into a major defensive position. The area on the border between the DPR and neighboring Zaporizhia region saw combat during the unsuccessful Ukrainian counteroffensive in the summer of 2023, when several local settlements were seized by Kiev. And meanwhile, in Kiev, the reality of the battlefield seems to be finally dawning on the Kiev regime, given the recent chilling statements from the head of intelligence, Kirill Budanov. Meduza reports that Kirill Budanov, the head of the main intelligence directorate of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, told the deputies of the Verkhovna Rada that for the existence of the country, it is important to hold negotiations on the end of the war before the summer of 2025. He said that at a closed meeting in the Rada, reported by Ukrainska Pravda on the 27th of January. According to the interlocutor of the publication, one of the participants of the meeting asked, "How much time do we still have?" The source of Ukrainian Pravda quoted Budanov's answer, "If there are no serious negotiations before the summer, then very dangerous processes for the very existence of Ukraine may be launched." And more about the newly discussed peace plan, as reported in Ukrainian media, will be reported on later in this video. But the final and perhaps most interesting report for today comes from Russian media, RIA Novosti.
战斗的编队，我的身边呢就是战斗编队的指挥官。Вы как попал?
Ну, попал в плен. Потом узнал, что есть такой отряд Maxim Kryvonosa.
Russian media reports on a growing but unusual battalion comprised of Ukrainian servicemen who, and get this, are now fighting for Russia. The media reports that an unusual battalion is fighting in Donbass, and it is named after the national hero of Ukraine, Maxim Kryvonos, the personnel of former servicemen of the armed forces of Ukraine who were at the front both voluntarily and by mobilization. So my friends, these are the stories that we will cover in today's video. As usual, all footages will be published in the complete and uncensored version for channel members only. I am making new additions of exclusive content for channel members, so I encourage everyone to join and become part of the community while supporting this channel. So shout out to the newest channel members here. And make sure to watch the bonus footage and the outro segment of this video at the end, where I direct you to important videos you should watch next. And one of these videos is quite graphic, but it outlines the benefits that you will receive when you join the WIPS channel membership community. So let's get into it.
Спасибо 5-й гвардейской ОБТР за сохраненные жизни.
Как-то так.
In November of 2024, Russian forces launched a major offensive of their own in the area of southern Donbass toward Velyka Novosilka, and eventually managed to virtually encircle the city in January, after taking control of several smaller settlements to the southwest and the village of Novi Kamar to the north. Earlier this week, the Defense Ministry in Moscow reported that Russian troops had driven a wedge through Ukraine's defensive position in the town itself and began an assault on the stronghold. The ministry also published a video showing Russian forces supported by drones and artillery storming Velyka Novosilka and raising the Russian flag over a building in the center of the town. Later on Sunday, the military published another video of what it said was the aftermath of the battle for Velyka Novosilka. The clip shows Russian soldiers walking around the town and standing on top of several buildings while waving flags. So if you want to get a more detailed breakdown of the fall of this key stronghold in southern Donbass, then make sure to watch my previous video entitled Inside the Velyka Novosilka Crisis, How Delusion Leads to Military Disasters. A link will be available in the outro segment and the end screen. If there are no serious negotiations before the summer, then very dangerous processes for the very existence of Ukraine may be launched. These were the chilling words of Kirill Budanov, after which, and I quote, everyone looked at each other and fell silent. Apparently, everything must work out, the deputy told the publication. President of Ukraine Vladimir Zelensky is interested in peace negotiations with Russia. US President Donald Trump said earlier. After returning to the White House, Trump said that he wanted to meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin to end the Russo-Ukrainian war. Trump threatened to tighten sanctions against Russia if Putin does not agree to negotiations. The Kremlin said that they were open to negotiations, but for this, Zelensky must cancel the ban on any contacts with the Russian leadership in force in Ukraine. Zelensky said on January 25th that he had imposed a ban on negotiations with Russia in order to stop separatism in Ukraine. I am the president of Ukraine. I am the leader of certain negotiations, and I forbade everyone else, Zelensky said. This chilling statement from Budanov comes on the heels of a peace plan within 100 days published by Ukrainian media Strana. The plan to end the war in 100 days was apparently compiled by the team of US President Donald Trump, which, according to the publication, has been actively discussed in the political and diplomatic circles of Ukraine in recent days. And here's what this plan looks like. According to Strana.ua, the plan involves Trump's telephone conversation with Vladimir Putin in January to February of this year, and then discussing further actions with Kiev. At the next stage, Volodymyr Zelensky will have to cancel the decree prohibiting negotiations with Putin. Then, in February or the first half of March, there will be a meeting between Trump and Zelensky and Putin. According to Strana, it will be decided separately whether it will be bilateral or trilateral. It should approve the main parameters of the peace plan. All the time, while negotiations and hostilities are underway, according to Strana, Trump will not block any military aid to Ukraine. At the next stage, it is proposed to declare a truce for Easter, which this year is celebrated on April 20th. Along the entire front line, at the same time, Ukraine must withdraw troops from the Kursk region, Strana writes. An international peace conference should be held at the end of April, which will fix an agreement between Russia and Ukraine with the mediation of the United States, China, European countries, and the countries of the Global South. Then, Ukraine and Russia will exchange prisoners on the principle of all for all. On May 9th, the declaration of the peace conference on the end of the war should be ready, and after this date, according to Strana, Ukraine is offered not to extend martial law and mobilization. The publication calls the last stage of the plan the holding of presidential elections at the end of August and parliamentary elections at the end of October. Now, to me, it's quite amazing how much influence that President Trump and the Ukrainian regime thinks they have to influence Putin to a peace deal. In my opinion, which I set out in this video here that is available for channel members of the My Exclusive Analysis tier, Putin will not stop until his maximalist aims are achieved, aims which were not expressly stated in his February 2022 speech. So lastly, let's get into the main event. And we're talking about the battalion fighting in the Donbass, named after the national hero of Ukraine, Maxim Kryvonos. RIA Novosti reports that the detachment was formed in the summer of 2023 and comprises, in addition to former prisoners of war, those who have been defending Donbass since 2014 also serve in this unit. The combat path of the battalion began from the Kremensky Forest in the Luhansk People's Republic. Then they were transferred to the Avdiivka direction. They fought in Avdiivka, Yasno-Grudovka, Novogrodovka, Selidovo, and now they are moving on. In quotations, I want to emphasize the detachment is not a unit of the Russian army. This is the Ukrainian volunteer formation. The fighters remain faithful to the oath, which was given not to Zelensky's regime and their Western curators, but to the people of Ukraine. The deputy of the detachment, with the call sign Jacques, emphasizes in an interview with RIA Novosti, I quote again, the tasks are performed on a par with Russian troops in Yuzhno-Donetsk and other directions. Not every prisoner of war from Ukraine will be taken into the squad, however. If a former soldier of the armed forces of Ukraine is involved in war crimes, the road here is closed, Jacques said. The majority in the detachment are bussified TCCs, or Territorial Staffing Center, Ukrainian Military Registration and Enlistment Office, or from Territorial Defense, from almost all over Ukraine, particularly the Ivano-Frankivsk, Transcarpia, Vinnytsia, Ternopil, Kiev, and even Lvov regions. Some got into ordinary motorized rifle units. There are also elite ones. For example, the 47th Separate Mechanized Brigade, formed according to NATO standards. They were prepared by foreign instructors, many trained abroad. However, after 10 years of fighting, the Ukrainian army has enough of its own instructors who are much more effective than the British ones, the deputy continues. At first, the squad was skeptical. The tasks were set the same: promotion and clearing of the area, holding positions, helping those who maintained in the frontline area. One example was in Novogrodovka, where civilians were evacuated. At that time, any movements were only on foot. The troops of this battalion, however, were shelled with cluster munitions from the armed forces of Ukraine. This allowed these former soldiers of the armed forces of Ukraine themselves to see how the Ukrainian army treats its own citizens. And they finally understood Zelensky's regime is aimed only at killing as many Russians and Ukrainians as possible, says Jacques. Yes, we are at war with our brothers, but our task is primarily to get them out of there, to save them and get help. Due to the fact that the sky is saturated with drones, it is not easy to move from one side to the other with a white flag. Information about the squad is transmitted in different ways: media, social networks, and SMS mailings. In quotations, it was possible in 2014 to move from Ukrainian side to Russian, but of course, not now. Any such defectors will be liquidated by their own national battalion barricade detachments, and that will be the end of it. Therefore, Ukrainian soldiers who wish to join us are just waiting for Russian stormtroopers or soldiers from our detachment, and then they announce their intention to join us, the interlocutor of RIA Novosti clarifies. On the other side, they are intimidated that they will be mocked and killed there. However, when ours, risking themselves, evacuate from the front line, provide first aid, share a ration, the Ukrainian original viewpoint of the war collapses, and then they unite with us and join our ranks. Close quotations. The idea of such a detachment arose a long time ago, adds the deputy, but he did not systematically deal with this issue before. I myself am from Kharkiv. I got on the path of resistance back in 2014. By joint efforts, just volunteers of the first wave, we managed to form a unit. Jacques, aka Svatoslav Gubin, participated in the anti-Maidan coup, then acted underground at the end of 2014 when the SBU actively identified such groups and liquidated, moved to Donbass, taking up arms. He fought in the LPR, or the Luhansk People's Republic. Then, having moved to intelligence, he got to Donetsk. When the Minsk agreements were signed, he took up political and social work. Since 2018, he has been the head of the Novosvetskaya administration in the DPR. In 2022, he volunteered for the front, although he could have remained in his post. In quotations, we carry out not only combat work with the fighters, but also political work. Looking ahead, we hope to form a new elite group, emphasizes Jacques, a kind of social elevator. This is an opportunity for those who are now fighting, clearing areas, to take part in the restoration of peaceful life in the future, so to build the future of our country. But this can only happen after peace comes. In the meantime, there are plans to increase the squad and to convey to as many people as possible there is always a chance to survive.
Моей спиной находятся убитые солдаты ВСУ, которых Зеленский по указке Запада отправил воевать против России. Подумайте хорошо, украинцы, что вы делаете? Нас 146 миллионов. И стоит ли идти воевать против такой большой сильной страны, как Россия?